AI is not going to take your existing manual process and automate it for you. There has to be a bridge, and low-code implementation is one of the most effective bridges for that. Simple is best. We're not really reading content, we're just scanning through it and making decisions.
Shawn Johnston is the founder of ReFoundry and Principal at Forge & Smith. He started out as a designer, but these days he helps businesses build smarter websites and move faster with low-code and AI. In this episode, he's sharing real-world lessons on what actually works, from scaling content to making your agency more efficient.
What is your take on AI content versus manual written op?
AI's got a little bit of a tendency to repeat itself, and so that still requires a little bit of human editing. I think the mistakes people are making aren't so much in choosing one, it's in not choosing one, right? They think low code means low skill, it means template, it means low quality. It doesn't mean any of those things.
Talking about user experience, what are the must-haves, that you should look at while building a website?
I think the most critical one in this is...
Hey, Shawn, how's it going?
Good, Ranmay. Thanks for having me.
Lovely. Shawn, before we move any forward, let's get to know more about you. Let's get to know the human behind the mic. Why don't you talk us through your journey a bit, and how did you land up, how did you start your entrepreneurial journey and then take it from there?
Yeah. So, I went to, going all the way back, I went to university or college for graphic design and communication, spent the first 10 years of my career in print. And I was working at an ad agency. This was right around the time where CSS was blowing up. If you guys remember the CSS Zen Garden, which actually started here in Vancouver. And I heard a big shouting match between a pro CSS advocate and someone who believed that HTML inline styles was not going anywhere. And I was like, I don't know what any of this was. And so I had some time to kill. So I looked into it, taught myself how to code. And then I saw an avenue for freelancing and started doing Craigslist hustling. So just doing $1,500 websites out of my basement. Yeah, eventually that turned into the agency, Forge & Smith, and then eventually the product that we launched ReFoundry.
Lovely. Tell us more about ReFoundry and, why do you feel the need of creating the platform? What problem does it solve? And how has been the journey thus far?
Yeah, so Forge & Smith now has been around for 13 years. We've always worked in WordPress and we've always produced strategic websites. And so that always included the information architecture, the UX, into the design, and then sort of the production of building it, optimizing it, and launching it. And it was maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, I started seeing the patterns in what we were doing. There's so many ways to structure content online. A lot of usability and user experience rules kind of solidified. And we tried many different ways to crack this. We failed 5 or 6 times. But the premise was if we could take the parts that are predictably the same, could we produce the same amount of work with less amount of time and really be able to focus on the parts that are unique and drive more value that way? So, that was the problem that we saw. And as the marketplace got harder, as margins fell, project rates were getting pressed down, competition like Squarespace and Wix was increasing, client demands, wages were going up. It was getting harder and harder to make a profit. And so that was when we really tried to lean into this idea of low code being a way to, again, do more work with less time and improve our profitabilities. So yeah, ReFoundry was born from that. It is effectively a low code platform native to Gutenberg. So it allows you to work a lot like a Webflow kind of product, but within WordPress's native backend. So yeah.
Nice. And in your view, how does adopting low-code approach prepare businesses and agencies for the broader wave of AI-driven automation?
Yeah. So I think all agencies for a number of years now are being sort of pressed and needing to focus on evolving the business, making it more systemized, more productized. Low code provides a really, really great opportunity for that because it allows you to systemize the repeatable pieces so you can really focus your time and effort on the portions that are custom. And AI is really coming for anything repetitive or rule-based. It's not a creative tool yet, right? It's not going to outthink us in terms of creativity or anything like that. Anything that's right for repetition or rules-based logic, AI is coming for that. And so the best way you can really position your agency to take advantage of where AI is going is by starting the process of systemizing and productizing. And one of the most effective places to start there is adopting low-code workflows. AI is not going to take your existing manual process and automate it for you. there has to be a bridge. And low code implementation is one of the most effective bridges for that.
Absolutely. And you have emphasized a strategy first approach to design, right? And while we were also talking prior to this, you were mentioning about building strategic websites. So can you unpack what it means in practice and why so many agencies kind of still miss the trick here?
Yeah, one of my web heroes, Jeffrey Zeldman he's the godfather of web standards. He said one time that design without strategy is just decoration. So I think that's one of the places where a lot of design first agencies are still getting it wrong, is that we're starting with brand and visuals and creating something beautiful that underneath that doesn't actually work. So by a strategic first approach, what we talk about is, analyzing content crawl, what data is already telling us, who our audience is, what content they're coming for, and how do we move them through that content while making Google happy by making accessible choices and about structuring that content to allow for the greatest possible way of discovering content and converting where we want them to. So when you create that framework and then structure that flow and then design that's how you're able to create a beautiful but strategic website.
Absolutely. And talking about user experience, what are the must-haves, that you should look at while building a website? Because you'd have built a lot of websites, right? So, if you were to pick up the top three, these are the must-haves while building a website.
Yeah, I think the most critical one in this is the one where people, they try to be different where you're really not supposed to. And that's something I learned from my old retail days, which is wayfinding, right? So the navigation, all the different ways of navigating through a website is how users find their way through the content to where we want them to go or where they're looking to go. And when you do things like labeling things weirdly or creating custom names, that's signage. You just think of somebody hurtling down a freeway at 100 miles an hour. The language has to be uniform because we're just scanning, we're making snap decisions. Yeah. So wayfinding is really, really important. Space is another piece. Allowing enough space between elements is also really, really important. You start cramming things together, it's harder for our eye to scan and pick up on those pieces. It's too dense. So using space to allow the eye to track through that is another key piece. And then the third one is simple language. Simple is best. We're not really reading content. We're just scanning through it and making decisions. So those three things, when you come together, create really easy ways for people to move into pages and parts of the site, make decisions, find what they're looking for, even by different paths. That's the other key piece. There's many different ways to content, and we need to allow for the greatest range of connectivity and interaction.
And talk us through content, Shawn, with all the AI storm around it. You must be doing a lot of content while building websites, right? So what is your take on AI content versus manual written up? How do you guys go about doing it?
Yeah, so actually this was one of the first places we adopted AI tooling. And again, it comes down to training and a lot of guidance. So what we've done is we've used this framework approach. So this strategic setup of how to section content and move users through that decision-making process into some clear guidelines. So every section needs to have a headline with some kind of wayfinding subheadline and a small amount of copy, for example. And so when we take ChatGPT, for example, to start generating content, we'll give the current content, so that historic content. We'll give it a voice and tone guide. So our copy strategy people create actual tone guidance. You should sound professional in this way and should use these words in these fashions. And then all of the keywords that we're wanting to focus on with some actual guidance around how often they should occur, what words shouldn't repeat too often. And then just working your way section by section, you can actually create some really, really good quality content that way. AI's got a little bit of a tendency to repeat itself. And so that still requires a little bit of human editing. But we can do a full site worth of content, a full a marketing style site of content in a couple of hours, where that used to take several days.
And talking about continuing from the conversation around low code platforms, right? So what mistakes do you feel marketers do, kind of in adopting to low code platforms? And give us your idea on this in terms of how can they avoid doing that?
That's a good question. There are not that many low code options within sort of the web space. Webflow, there's Framer. Those are some of the big ones. There's a lot more low code platforms on sort of the SaaS and software side of things. I think the mistakes people are making aren't so much in choosing one, it's in not choosing one, right? They think low code means low skill, it means template, it means low quality. It doesn't mean any of those things. What it's actually doing is just removing the repetitive work and empowering and allowing you to move at velocity. So it actually really supports iteration. It supports ongoing evolution. And so, yeah, it's that idea that low code means an overly structured, low quality thing I have no control over, and it's anything but.
Right. And I mean, you would have designed and worked with a lot of businesses across industries and niches, like we were talking about it, right? So give us your favorite client story, Shawn. All these years, any website which is built and kind of, skyrocketed, or anything that is close to your heart, any client story.
Yeah, there was one retail group that they had a large internal team that really just wanted to be able to do their job. They wanted to be able to move at velocity. They wanted to experiment. They wanted to try different things. But up until we started working with them, they didn't have a tool that would allow them to do that. Everything needed to flow through outside developers. Everything needed a git commit or some kind of code push. It really slowed them down. And so when we moved them low code, not to keep pushing this particular narrative, but when we moved them to low code, what they had was an environment that just created an enormous amount of freedom for them. And so being able to quickly iterate a campaign page or put together a different version of a case study or sell or talk about a particular product promotion in a way that allowed them to do their job just brought a lot of almost euphoria on their side, because it was just this struggle they've had for years to try to be able to operate at velocity and take advantage of trends and pivots and opportunities in the marketplace. And now they were able to sort of do that in a super effective, trackable way. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun to see them really work to like take it as far as they could and support them in that journey.
Lovely. Great, Shawn. This has been a great conversation. But before we let you go, I would like to play a quick rapid fire with you. I hope you're game for it.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good.
All right. Your last Google search.
Oh, crap. What does EBITDA mean?
Okay. All right. Entrepreneur. All right. Where do we find you on Friday evenings after work or after office?
Yeah, Friday evenings are burger night. So we make some kind of burger at home. We order in some French fries from the fish and chips place down the street. And then it's usually a long dog walk to try to calm down from the heaviness of the week, the busyness of the week.
Lovely. Moving on, your favorite sport?
Right now, soccer. Still celebrating the Liverpool title win. That's my team.
Okay. Now, all right. Continuing from that, which club are you going to support in the Champions League finals? PSG or Inter?
It's like both of them, to be honest with you. Probably Inter. I don't. PSG is. I don't know. They're too monolithic. So see if Inter Milan can do it again. Yeah.
Lovely. All right. The final one will not grill you any further. What did you do with your first paycheck, Shawn? First paycheck of your life?
I bought a jacket. Was a very, very poor student, and I did not have a good jacket. So I spent a lot of time being really cold. So yeah, my first paycheck bought me a proper jacket.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Shawn, for being a sport. This has been a really great session, and really appreciate you taking out time to do this with us.
My pleasure. Thank you.